Hello and welcome to this podcast, Little Girls Aren't Taught This. I am your host, Self-Love Lydia, and this is a self-love podcast unlike no other. Within this podcast, we will go into all of the things that we should have been taught as little girls that would have helped us feel empowered, connected, and just unapologetic as we grew into women. I am the queen of deep transformations. I am on a mission to impact women around the world with self-love, and I am here to teach you how to be unapologetic and just step into your power. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello, and welcome to this podcast episode. I must say, I wasn't planning on doing a podcast episode on this, but yesterday, I don't know if you caught my Instagram story. I was speaking about going on a walk, and I just admitted that I feel really scared when I walk on my own. It's something I've always felt, but I definitely think it's heightened after, all of the stuff that we've seen lately in relation to the two women that were killed in London. So it just evoked such a big response, and I don't know, I just feel like it's such an important conversation, and I'm definitely going to get somebody on my podcast to have a conversation about this, but I just felt super called to share my, the conflict I feel inside. And also so many women responded on Instagram, so I'm just going to unpack some of the things that were said, because it's definitely something that we're all feeling, but I just don't feel like we're talking about it. I don't feel like we're getting onto a big platform or into a space and we're all talking about it in an honest, enriching way. So if you listen to this podcast episode and it provokes any thoughts, please share them with me, because this is these are the conversations that I live for, as you can tell. Yeah, this is the stuff that is just, you will get me going. You will get me going when you begin to talk to me about these types of issues. So I'll fill you in case you didn't catch my podcast episode yesterday, my Instagram story. But essentially what I was discussing is this conflict inside that I feel around when I'm on my own and I'm going on a walk on my own. I feel this conflict of, I should be allowed to be on a walk on my own. So then therefore, the thoughts that come from that are, I shouldn't feel scared. I'm not scared. I shouldn't feel scared. I'm allowed to be on a walk on my own, okay? And then when I said that out loud, it kind of made me feel like it was a little girl stomping her feet. I should be allowed to go on a walk on my own. But then also I have this massive conflict and this pull towards, but it's not safe for me to do that, which really heightens my sense of vulnerability and really brings it close to my space. It brings it into my world and it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And when I put this and shared this yesterday, a lot of women were saying the same. To be honest, a lot of women were saying they don't even go on a walk on their own because they feel that scared, which just makes me so sad, because you begin to understand the severity and the impact of the society that we live in, for one. But when we see, events happen like what we've seen over the past few months with those two women, you begin to see how that is just, it shrinks it, doesn't it? And it brings it, it zooms in and brings it right into your reality, right into your world. It's not something that we're seeing on the media anymore. It's not something that's happening in London. It's not something that's happening because wrong place, And the thing is, as humans, and I think definitely as women, we've done this. I know I've done this in the past. I will try and find an excuse of why that happened, and that's not me doing that because I'm blaming the victim, or I'm it's not me doing that because I'm blaming them or I'm downplaying what's happened. I know that we do that because it makes us feel safer. Does that make sense? It makes us feel that little bit safer when something happens against a woman and the stereotypes of, you know, doing the wrong thing come into play. It makes us feel like, oh, I wouldn't do that. That's why that happened. I wouldn't do that. I'm safe. And I think what's happened the past few weeks and months in London is we've seen women are doing the things that they should be fucking doing. We are doing the things that we are taught to do, and still this has happened. And there's no way we can get out of it. We can't distance ourselves when we read that they were doing the things that we do, when we know that that could so easily be us. We cannot find a way to emotionally distance ourselves, because that makes it easier to be a woman and hear about women getting murdered and hear about women getting killed in the hands of men. It makes it fucking easier. I know for me that makes it easier. So when I hear about these things, it brings it into my world and it makes me understand how vulnerable I am for just being myself, for just being a woman. It makes me realise that when my boyfriend is being overprotective, or when I laugh and I joke and I tell him that he's overprotective and he does not want me to do certain things, he's not doing that from a place of control. He's doing that because he knows my vulnerability and he loves me, and he's trying to minimise any potential risk. And when I know that what he's doing is making sense, when he's saying to me, I don't want you to go out when it's dark, I want you to let me know where you're going if you're on your own. When I'm telling you to be careful, it's because I want to remind you to be vigilant and be careful. And it's like, when I begin to realise that that's my reality, it really, it brings up so many things. Like, in one sense, it makes me angry. In one sense, it makes me feel really sad. And then it makes me feel sad for just countless women who this has happened to. It makes me feel sad that it's my responsibility. It's our responsibility to just monitor our own safety. You know, I've spoke about body monitoring before. I've spoke about these issues in terms of living in a patriarchal society, and this is another hand that comes off that. Being constantly vigilant and aware of our own vulnerability and our own safety, and taking the actions required to ensure that we stay safe. Like, why is that always us that has to do that? Why is that always me that has to, why is it me that has to text my boyfriend yesterday and tell him exactly where I am? And tell him where I've parked? Why is it me when I'm on a walk on my own, when automatically I notice the change in my body in an instant when I am on my own? Why is it me that's always thinking of exit routes when I'm walking, or things that I can pull out to protect myself without even giving it a second thought? Like this, I do this without even thinking, without even giving it a second thought. I pull out my keys, I look for an escape route, I think about people can jump out on me if I'm on a walk. I think about how I would fight back if something happened. Like, this is the reality, and this is really, like, it's making me emotional talking about it, because this is the reality. And even when we do these things, it still happens. We are still, as women, vulnerable. You know, we are still murdered. We are still kidnapped. Just because we are women. And that's heavy to sit with. Like I feel, like, literally when I'm talking now, I feel it in my body. I feel it in my chest. It feels heavy and uncomfortable to sit and actually say that, And to say that as well as a woman who is, for me personally, such an empowered woman. Like, I use my voice, like, I'm a feminist, I will speak up and challenge people, I will speak my truth, you know. But for me to sit here and say, even with all of those things, even the fact that I am quite switched on to this stuff because I have worked on both sides. I have worked with women who are victims and I have worked with men who perpetrate the violence. Even though I've worked on both sides and I know how common it is, I know how often it happens, for me to still sit here and say there's no way for me to escape that feels very uncomfortable. It does not feel nice. And this is what I opened up yesterday on Instagram, because the other side of me is then like, why shouldn't I be able to do that? Like, and I guess that's where that fiery, like, feminist side of me comes in, mixed with the Scorpio. And it's like, oh, why the fuck shouldn't I be able to go on a walk on my own? Like, I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to turn back, because when I turn back, I'm letting patriarchy win. I'm letting men win. I'm letting these systems win if I turn around and I walk the other way. So I'm not going to do that. I should be allowed to go on a walk. I should be free to go on a walk. I should be able to go on a walk and not have to think about, if I got my keys at hand, what am I going to do if someone jumps out at me? Where could they come from now? I shouldn't have to walk and feel my heart rate literally go through the roof when I'm walking and I'm on my own. I shouldn't have to do these things. And a part of me feels like if I turn around, or if I text my boyfriend, I'm letting it win, and I don't want to let it win, because I should be able to do these things without being in fear of being kidnapped or sexually assaulted or followed. There's literally a multitude of things, but essentially the biggest thing is the risk factor, isn't it? I should be able to do that without feeling at risk. And it's that conflict of, but if I walked around with that level of naivety, am I making myself more vulnerable? So they pull between each other. I mean, for me personally anyway, like, and this is why it's going to be so interesting to get somebody on to talk about this when I find the right person, is that's why it's such a pull between the two. But for me, if I go with the empowerment, if it adds a layer of naivety. For me personally, it feels like it doesn't feel enough for me to say, well, I should be able to do this. Well, I'm not asking for this, this, and this if I do this. And I know I'm not. I don't even have to explain and go into that. We know we are fucking not doing that. We know we are not asking for stuff. We know we are not allowing men to come over to us. We know. But you know what? It doesn't make me feel any safer. And this is what I was talking about yesterday. So the things that we're saying and the movements that are happening and the things that we're doing, it doesn't make me feel any safer as a woman. And now more than ever, I feel more vulnerable. So what do we do? What do we do? To sit here and say we should be able to walk home, we should be able to walk and meet a friend. Yeah, we should. But that privilege was taken away from Sarah. Like, that privilege is taken away from us. That privilege was taken away from Sabina. And I don't really feel like the purpose of this podcast was for me to just unravel things like this and just talk about things like this. And, you know, there's some episodes and there's some topics that aren't going to have tools or tips or even solutions. this is just me using my voice as a young woman and saying, this is how I feel. And if you listen to this and if this resonates with you, well, then we have a shared connection. You know, we have connected as women on something that we feel. And that's what I want this podcast to do. I want my voice in this podcast episode to just feel like your voice, to give you the power to go out and use your voice, to give you the power to speak your truth, to allow you to see that if you're feeling this way, you are not the only woman that's feeling this way. You know, I love you, I see you, I understand how you're feeling. And that conflict, if you feel it too, there's no solution. For me, there's no solution. And I feel actually I don't like to admit it, but I feel like it's more prominent in the vulnerability. I just feel like that's the acceptance for me. That is the acceptance. The monitoring of my own safety. Because if I begin to bring in the other element of it, that makes me feel even more vulnerable. And it doesn't really feel like I'm achieving much if I go into that space of, well, I should. It doesn't feel like I'm achieving much. It just feels like, for me, I'm making myself feel more vulnerable. So when I put this out yesterday, like, I was literally amazed at the responses I got. People were saying, I don't go out after 6 p.m. onwards, which just blew my mind. One woman put, I have absolute anxiety even just watching you walk alone there and doing the video. Scared on dark nights, get super paranoid. I used to go running along beautiful country lanes, but I've felt too scared since Sarah's death. This is the impact. Angry about it all. It's got to the point now where we can't distance ourselves. And again, I'm not saying we do that because we're doing that to put blame on the victim, because we don't do that. We do that because we need that psychological safety. We need that safety. Otherwise, we wouldn't fucking do anything. We would not do anything. Another woman put, literally only feel safe walking alone if I have my German Shepherd. One woman said she felt uneasy. One woman, which really got to me, like really resonated, she put, I wouldn't be brave enough to go for a walk somewhere so isolated. So on my video, it looked like I was really isolated, and the reality is I wasn't. I was in an open park. It's just when I turned the corner, you walk through like trees and stuff, and I turned the corner and there was a path and there was no one on the path. But there's people dotted about everywhere. But this is even another layer to it now. When we're in areas that are built up, do we actually even feel 100% safe? Sarah was walking home in a built up area. Sabrina was in a park. So many people just saying the same thing, 100% agree, and feel so conflicting. It's so heavy, but I think you're never going to be fully safe everywhere. Absolutely petrified of walking alone. Same, only walking in busy areas just in case seeing this as plenty of witnesses should anything happen. Like, this is the reality, and this is just honestly, you know, this is where, when we're talking about male privilege, this is male privilege, and this is why for me the Not All Men movement was just like, are you fucking having a laugh with that movement? Because actually what, again, we're doing is we're bringing male privilege into it. We're saying, oh, it's not all men, and it's not good enough. The Not All Men movement was a fucking indication of the privilege that men have when a woman is murdered. So for me, you can fuck off with that movement. And I openly said that. I don't agree with this movement. And everybody who played into that movement missed the point, because look at where we're at now. These are the lived realities of women that I'm talking out, plus my lived reality. Do we feel any safer? No, we don't. Do we have men speaking up for us? Do we? We might have one or two, but has anything really changed from the Not All Men movement? Not really. Did anything change from the big movement on social media when it happened with Sarah? No, because it happened to that absolute beautiful person 2 weeks ago in London again. That beautiful woman who was just going out to meet a friend. No. So don't come at me with the male privilege stuff of it's not all men is another thing that I strongly, strongly feel. So, yeah, I don't even know if this podcast is going to make sense or it's a good one to listen to. But I just really feel like it's an opportunity to use my voice, and potentially, by the looks of the responses that I got yesterday, my voice for so many other people. There's women out there. I would love to go for an early morning walk, but never because of how scared I feel walking alone. We are not going for early morning walks. We are already anxious about the thought of the dark night coming in. We are not walking after 6 p.m. We are monitoring and planning the places that we are fucking going for a walk, so we are not at higher vulnerability and risk. We are aware of this stuff. We are aware of our vulnerability. We are aware of our risk. And this is the reality. So if you feel this way, you are not alone. If you feel this conflict, you are not alone in this conflict. If you feel scared, it's okay that you feel scared, because you know what? A lot of us do. A lot of us do. And it doesn't really feel like, for me, anything is changing. I'm going to London on the 22nd to work for an incredible opportunity, and I really want to go on my own. But after what's happened in London, I don't want to go on my own. And the thing is, there's always this stuff cannot hold us back from living our lives. So like, I went traveling on my own. I could never have done that, because I might have been like, I'm too scared. You know, I will go to London and I will go on my own. You know, I will still go on these walks. But the thing is, we always have that knowing in the back of our mind. We always have to monitor the things that we do. And I think that for me is just where I find the sweet spot between feeling empowered and not feeling held back, and understanding, not having that naivety. So understanding my place, which fucking angers me to say that, but that's the first thing that just organically came. Understanding my place, which makes me so angry and it makes me so upset, and I don't even know why that makes me upset. Like, why am I getting upset by that? I don't know. But that just felt really powerful and hard hitting when I said that. And I think there's a lot of emotion behind, for me, there's a lot of emotion feeling into what's happened in London the past few months. Like, there's so much anger. There's so much anger that's probably there from doing the work that I've done previously, having to sit opposite these people who perpetrate this type of stuff, having to sit opposite men who view women as lesser, having to see how women are constantly re-victimized in criminal justice systems, in the media, how I should be one way but then I should be another way. It's exhausting. And then it's so hard when it feels like it's in your personal space. Like, it could have happened to you at any point when there's no way to disassociate from that. That is hard. That's a hard acceptance. That's a hard reality. Two women of similar age to me, two women who do things that I do. And It's just like, sometimes it feels like it's that close, it like suffocates. And this is how I felt when Sarah happened, and this is how I felt when Sabrina happened. Sabrina, sorry, I hope I'm saying that the right way. This is how I felt when I heard about her, and this is how I felt when I've been reading like the victim impact statement. Just two beautiful women. All women are beautiful, but I'm just specifically talking about these two, obviously, because they're so relevant right now. Two beautiful women with their whole lives ahead of them, young, just going about their business, and it was just pulled away from them, and that is so heavy to sit with. So if this has been heavy for you as well, I apologise. But you know, this, in a way, I don't apologise, because this is a reality, and it's kind of what we need to tune into, and we need to accept, and we need to tap into. And I also feel like this is we can't ignore this, because this is part of it. And if we feel this in our hearts the way that I'm feeling it now, you know, that means that it's close to us, that means that it resonates, that means that it's had an impact. And I guess from the two situations that have occurred, one of the things I think is like, how can those two women have an impact every day? So if we feel this in our heart, it's because they had an impact on us. Like, what happened had an impact. And this is the type of stuff that brings us together as a collective, and this is honestly why I'm just so honoured that I've been asked to be a part of I Am Arla, which is like a platform that's being built. That's the launch I'm going to on the 22nd, but it's a platform that's being built, and it's just to help women. It's to help women that have experienced trauma, to help women that, as an impact of that and as a result of that, you know, they need help and support with their mental health. And I've been asked to be one of the lead coaches, which is just such an honour. And I will do workshops twice a month, and you know, I will help women on that platform, and I will be a part of that platform. So I'm going to the launch on the 22nd, and yeah, there's a big panel interview, and I've been asked to go and speak at the panel interview. And just the women who are setting it up are just incredible women. I've actually recorded Devika on my podcast, so if you've listened to that, we done a podcast episode when it happened with Sarah, we done a podcast on it. And yeah, like, it's just such a privilege to be a part of that. And this is like, when you hear this upset in my voice, this is the passion behind why I do everything that I do. This is honestly the passion behind the self-love work. This is the passion behind the trauma work. This is just the passion that I've just tapped into without expecting to. But this is what drives me every single day, in my own world and in all the work that I do. And this is why it's such a huge privilege to be part of I Am Arla with such incredible women. So yeah, I hope in some way you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've taken something from it. Please share it with me and let me know. Please, if you have friends, you know, just share this with people around you, because every woman could probably do it here in this podcast episode. And just understanding that she's not alone, and just connecting and just coming together to speak about these things is super, super important. So that was quite a vulnerable podcast episode, and I honestly didn't expect it to be. But you can never control what comes out, especially when you're just speaking from the heart, and it just felt relevant. So enjoy. I shall speak to you all soon. Sending you so much love.